So, for today here on TMI, how about I talk about something that I have zero qualifications to talk about? Here's how unqualified I am to talk about the situation in Ukraine. It was literally only a handful of years ago that I realized that it's just Ukraine, not the Ukraine. Because growing up, I always heard it called the Ukraine, and I just thought it was like the Netherlands or the Hague. Just some places have the in front of it. But then I found out that actually Ukraine is its own country, and it used to be a part of Russia, so they called it the Ukraine because it was like, an area of Russia or something like that. But it's just Ukraine. I just found this out embarrassingly recently. I also recently found out that it's the capital city is not Kiev, it's Kyiv. Kiev was apparently the Russian pronunciation of it, just like they kind of ruined the Ukraine thing. But no, it's just Kyiv. Again, just learned that very recently. So when this conflict broke out, when this situation happened, I started getting some comments on social media and whatnot. Some of them very angry and pointed, like, "Are you going to talk about this?" And I'm sitting there like, why? Why would I talk about this? Like, why would anybody think that I'm qualified to speak about this? And I still feel that way. I'm wholly unqualified to discuss this whole situation. But I've actually gotten a lot of not just comments and social media requests and stuff, but actual like emails have been sent to me from people who are either in Ukraine or fleeing Ukraine or live outside of Ukraine but have family in Ukraine, who are basically like begging me to talk about it. And I think it's not so much because I'm some geopolitical expert or something, which I'm very not. But I think it's just because they wanted to get as much attention to this situation as possible. And I understand that. So yeah, here I am. I'm making a video about it, but I'm not going to try to make this an explainer video or something, although I've watched some pretty good ones, and I'll link them down below. One of them is from Johnny Harris. One's from Real Life Lore. These are, of course, American YouTubers that, may have educated themselves on it, as I'm trying to. But I also think it's important to highlight and lift up Ukrainian creators who are trying to get the word out in that first person way that no American could possibly touch. So I'm going to put links to all those. Basically, this is a post saying, hey, go down in the description and check out all these links that I have, because I am not an expert. I'm just going to share how I feel about this. I'm not going to try to explain what's going on there, because I'm totally unqualified to do that. But if people want me to shed some light on it some more, I'm happy to do that. I do 100% stand with Ukraine here, although for a while I think some of them didn't think I did. I've kind of made light of this because that's all you can do when you're on YouTube. Like, literally, there's nothing that I can say that won't piss off somebody at this point. And no, in the moon mining episode that I did at the end of last year or so, I've talked about this before, so if I'm repeating myself, forgive me. But yeah, we were talking about all the countries that signed on to the Artemis Accords to sort of set some kind of framework for how things are going to go forward on the moon after we start, sort of setting up bases there and stuff, looking forward and everything. And yeah, just as I was talking, my editor pulled a map from the Wikipedia page on the Artemis Accords that showed all the countries that are a part of it, and plopped that up on the screen next to me. Well, whoever made that map and put it up on Wikipedia did not include Crimea as part of Ukraine. And so people saw this on my channel, and it was just this whole thing on Twitter. There were people calling me a Russian agent, Putin's puppet. And I'm just sitting here like, guys, come on, seriously? Like, literally all the effort that I put into it was me going, yes, that is a map. And I moved on. Like, I didn't even look to see if the countries that were highlighted on there were the right countries. It was pulled from the Wikipedia page. So, there you go. Much less was I checking for every global conflict that might be reflected in it. So, I had some people from Ukraine that were not happy with me. And again, can't do anything without it pissing somebody off. So all I can do is just kind of, slough it off and keep going. But now that this has happened, I look back and I'm like, oh, so that's why they were mad. This is, yeah, they had a very good reason to be upset about that. Although I wish, people wouldn't just jump to the immediate worst case, conclusion on that. But still, I get it. I get why people were so upset about that, because this isn't a new thing. This is an ongoing conflict that's been going on for years. And of course they were feeling under threat from Russia because they were under threat from Russia. So again, not trying to be an explainer, but just kind of sharing my thoughts. It feels like Putin is basically an abusive boyfriend who has, if I can't have you, nobody can mentality about Ukraine. I know there's geopolitical reasons for it. Ukraine was kind of flirting with joining NATO, and that would put NATO right on Russia's border. And Putin has stated explicitly many times that he wants to kind of bring Russia back to the dominance that they had during the Soviet era. He has called losing the Baltic states and the Eastern European countries from the Warsaw Pact or whatever. Like, is that right? The Warsaw Pact? Or was that? No, that's a World War II thing. The Soviet bloc. Anyway. See how qualified I am to talk about this? But no, he has talked about that losing those Eastern European countries was like one of the worst things that's happened in the last century or something like that. So he's trying to rebuild Russia again and bring it back to its former glory, because the Soviet Union was so glorious that it fell. So I don't know, whenever people say that like there's just no reason that he would do this, well, no, there's reasons. It's not, none of them are good, none of them are justified, but he has reasons to want to do it. To me, it is. It's just like it's an abusive boyfriend, because like Ukraine is basically saying we are under threat from Russia, so we want to join NATO so that we can have some protection. And then Russia's like, no, we're going to threaten you because you want to join NATO. And they're like, well, that's why we want to join NATO, because you're threatening us. See how I oversimplify things? Shouldn't be talking about this. But I mean, look, it goes without saying that the images that are coming out of Ukraine are heartbreaking. It's totally unjustified. He might have his reasons, but they're completely unjustified. And Zelensky has been incredibly an inspiring leader. I mean, somebody's going to make an amazing movie about him someday. This guy was literally a comedian, and then he becomes president, and then this happens, and he becomes this like inspirational leader. He was offered safe haven in other countries, and he said, no, I need to stay here, and is toughing it out. And it's been this big inspiration for the people. The people themselves have been incredibly inspiring. It kind of puts our issues here in the United States in stark relief when you see what other people are doing around the world to protect their nation, to protect their sovereignty. If I can try to find a silver lining here, it would be that I think I'm hoping that the pendulum's always swinging in politics and geopolitical stuff. And the world has been moving more authoritarian lately, all over the world. We've had some issues with that here in the United States. And my hope is that maybe this kind of could be the beginning of the pendulum swinging back the other direction, because as it turns out, as we can see in this conflict, it's kind of a bad thing when a crazed authoritarian running a country with nuclear weapons is in charge. So maybe like this authoritarian lean that we've been going towards could start to reverse the other direction, because we're seeing like, oh, you really shouldn't give that much power to one person. I had also made the statement to a friend the other day that, a lot of people said that Chernobyl was, obviously it was many things, but a lot of people say that Chernobyl was what kind of bankrupted and ended the Soviet Union. That being in Ukraine, I think it would be perfectly poetic for this conflict to be the thing that bankrupts and destroys Putin's regime in Russia. And I frankly hope that's exactly what happens. Of course, it's very early on in this thing. Almost the best case scenario that I could see is like a war of attrition that eventually, Russia just can't sustain. But that is not a good thing for the people of Ukraine. I mean, wars of attrition are awful and bloody and nightmarish and go on for decades. And that's a lot of human suffering. And as we can see what's happening there, those are really good people that should not be suffering. But, you know, a lot of people have different takes on this whole thing. That's about as far as I want to share in terms of like my take on it, because again, I don't feel qualified to go any further than that. I just want to extend my heart to the people of Ukraine. Anybody who has family over there, I just please be safe. Their bravery is inspiring beyond words. And I'm going to also put links down below to some various charity organizations. Is charity even the right word? But organizations that can help the people in Ukraine who are suffering under all this. And I mean, on another note, just really quick, sorry, it just came to mind, was that, Elon recently shipped a whole bunch of Starlink terminals over there. One of the, I don't know if you would call it an iconic image, but it seemed pretty iconic to me, was that Russia bombed the TV station in Ukraine, like the TV tower. It was like very much a symbol of we're cutting off your communication with the rest of the world. And if there's one argument for Starlink, it would be that you can provide a communication gateway for people in places that either through outside influence in the case of Russia, or just developmentally they don't have the infrastructure there to communicate with the rest of the world. This gives them that ability to do that. And I just heard that they shipped it over there. I don't know how much that's been implemented and how helpful it's been yet, but again, if there's one really good argument for something like Starlink, I think that's right up there. But no, I encourage anybody who's watching this who is from Ukraine or is much more familiar with this topic than I am, please do talk about it down in the comments. I don't understand how anybody could support Putin in this whole thing right now, but I'm sure someone down there will. But yeah, I want to lift up the voices of people from Ukraine. And so, like I said, I'm going to post some links down below to some creators that I've run across that are over there, and some of the charity organizations. If you can financially support, please do. I'm doing so myself. And I think for right now, I don't know what else to say, except I'm heartbroken by the whole thing. The world does not need to be destabilized any further than it already is. And by God, it started to feel sort of like we were getting back to normal from COVID. And here comes Putin kind of having to be a dick. I hope it's the thing that finally gets Putin out of there. I know the people of Russia are furious about this. A lot of them are. This is not good for anybody except for his own ego. Like I said, he's like an abusive boyfriend. But anyway, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. I just wanted to speak about this because so many people have asked me to, and as unqualified as I am, I want to raise awareness for it as much as I can. So anyway, again, if you are in Ukraine or have family there, I wish you the best. Please be safe, and we're all pulling for you. And I want to hear about it in the comments. Please do share. Anyway, that's it for now. Stay safe. Love you guys. Take care.